to make that light appear. So there is just effortless awareness of the light.
Yes. Yes.
So that the light, when there is effortless neutral awareness, that is utilizing the body of wisdom, because that's where all forms arise equally and effortlessly. So when so we can just remain neutral. So in any experience, we can remain in neutrality. So we can be neutrally aware of thoughts appearing, neutrally aware of emotions arising or sensations. One can be neutrally aware of the objects in the room, or neutrally aware of this conversation. And then we can, if we wish to, we can engage the mind. So if we take the example of being effortlessly aware of the light through the window, from the body of wisdom, there is just effortless awareness of the light. But then we can engage the mind, which is like putting a car into gear, really. So you need to put the mind into gear to be able to describe that light in some way, which is what I'd like you to do. So if you can just, just describe or comment on the quality of the light in some way.
It's actually it's dark already here because it's night light. I'm looking at the bright light in the room from the lamp,
Yes.
and it's quite a white, strong light.
Yeah.
It's round.
Yes.
And it's not a very good quality. It kind of does a bit this.
Okay.
The electricity doing that.
Yeah, good. That's great. So can you see that clear distinction, though, Nina, between effortless awareness of the light,
I
where
can.
there's no commentary, there is just the effortless awareness of the light, and then there's the engagement of the mind to conceptualize or describe it or comment in some way?
I think I can see it very clearly.
Great. Fantastic.
But they coexist all the time.
Well,
sense.
well, we've been conditioned into losing that distinction, because when we lose that distinction, we tend to function in the personal realm most of the time without realizing that there's an option to remain as impersonal being. So what you'll be able to do now is to be able to consciously decide whether you rest as effortless being and you notice forms arising effortlessly, or whether you wish to engage the mind and conceptualize or describe or to plan or whatever you wish to do with the mind. But it's seeing that there's that distinction between the body of wisdom or effortless being, which is the foundation. That's what's always there. But
yes.
then there's the mind, which is like a little power tool, which
yes.
you can pick it up and do a little job with it. So,
yes.
If you want to bake a cake, the mind will say, well, we need to just look in a recipe book, or I'm going to do this one I already know, and I know all the ingredients, and I don't even need to weigh them, or whatever it is.
Yes.
So the mind can just do that, but it's knowing that the mind, it isn't something that's running all the time. It's something that we can pick up and we can utilize it when we wish to, but the rest of the time it's much more beneficial energetically and in terms of clarity to just put it down and just to rest as effortless being, resting in neutrality. Because when you're resting in neutrality, then there's more energy available when you need to make a decision. So the more you rest as effortless being, the more you're maintaining one's energy. And therefore, so in terms of decisions you need to take, or looking after children or your family or your home or, your work,
yes.
the mind, when the mind's had a rest, it functions much more effectively.
So, because I've been doing this quite a bit, and because also I watched your videos and the exercises several times, and I followed them, and I realized, like, yes, 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 I get it. But does that, like, without sounding like I don't know, sound whatever way, but so I had this question: am I already self-realized, but I just didn't realize it? You know what I mean? Like, because the mind is very strong, and I do engage the mind probably very, very often, even without being aware of it. The
Yes.
mind already jumps to the forefront, but I am able to very often say, hey, just, relax, get back, and just notice what's here, and that's all you need to do. It's almost
Yes.
like a meditation again, but I don't know if that's the way how you
Well,
described it. But
it's really,
am I kind
yeah.
of already there and I just don't
The truth,
know
yeah,
I'm there?
the truth is that everyone is already self-realized. Everyone is already the infinite being. It's just that the mind and this world try to tell us that we're not, and that there's something missing. And it's trying to tell us that we're the mind. It's trying to tell us that the thoughts and the emotions are ours when they never were. It's really understanding the human experience, because we're actually experiencing what is effectively, it's like an energy game that's being played. And so everything we experience on the human level has a kind of energetic component,
Yes.
or it's like energetic expenditure. So
Yes.
things like meditation, and yoga, they help to conserve meditation. Certain life experiences, like just the ordinary human life, there's a certain level of expenditure. There's expenditure in terms of things like, working, there's physical expenditure, there's financial expenditure in terms of living, and but there's also mental and emotional expenditure. So the mental and emotional expenditure is kind of intrinsic within the game. So most people don't realize the implications of engaging the mind and the emotions, because what we're able to do when it's pointed out is we can function from effortless being where there's zero energetic expenditure. But most of the conditioning we have in the mainstream version of this world is about keeping people in energetic expenditure. So it's keeping them in work, it's keeping them preoccupied, it's keeping them engaged in things like fear, it's keeping them involved in limitation, keeping them identified with the mind. Everything, whether you read a book or watch a film or, watch something on TV, everything is reinforcing the subject-object mode of experience. They're all reinforcing the idea that you're existing as a human being in time and space. You were born at a certain time, you're going to die at a certain time, and in the meantime, you have to make the best of it. But it's a pretty hairy ride, because there's, all of this emotional turbulence, there's all of this disturbance and traumatic experience. But it's all like a virtual reality game, really. And once you understand that, you can play it in a different way.
Yeah.
Now, the most important thing to know is that when we take delivery of the body mind at birth, it's actually wired to two different systems. So the first system is actually the infinite being. So we could say God, or, our infinite nature. And the intelligence relating to our infinite nature is available through the body of wisdom. And that is through things like intuition, inspiration, synchronicity, telepathy, all of those subtle forms of functioning. Whereas the intelligence available in the mental body is a dualistic form of intelligence. And so you could say the intelligence which relates to God, or our infinite nature, is a combination of infinite intelligence and infinite love. the intelligence available in the mental body is a combination of intelligence and fear. So you could say that the body of bliss and the body of wisdom are in alignment with God or the infinite being, but the mental, emotional, and physical realms they're a dualistic construct, and they're actually administered by a dualistic form of intelligence, which isn't God's intelligence. And it's more like the film The Matrix, really. It's like in Gnosticism, the intelligence that's administering the dualistic realm is called the demiurge. So the word demi means half, and the word urge means creator. So it's actually like the reason it's an energetic game is because the energy that's required to run the dualistic realm, because it isn't in alignment with unity or God, which is effortless, it requires energetic expenditure. So everything in this realm is inspiring us to be emotionally and mentally disturbed in some way, because that's how our energy is fueling the game. Yeah. And that's what keeps us locked into the personalized realm of experience. Because, if somebody says, well, you're only Nina, there is nothing beyond that, you're locked in time and space, you're locked within the physical body, you have limited potential, you have to endure all this trauma and mental conflict and all of this. I mean, that's what the world's telling us. And if we believe that, which unfortunately most people do,
yes,
it's not a very nice ride, really.
Yes.
But when we know that we actually take delivery of the body mind, and it's wired to both of those systems, you begin to make the distinction. Because the reason that your life has evolved and you've gravitated towards things like yoga and meditation is because there is already that channel which is open in terms of alignment with your infinite nature and in alignment with God.
Yes, and I'm very aware of that. I
Fantastic.
just feel I have a paper bag over my head, but I'm very aware of that, and I'm kind of desperately trying to align myself to exactly what you're talking about.
Well, you're already in full alignment with that. The thing to discover, though, is that when we take delivery of the body mind, it's already also wired into the dualistic system. So what's delivering content from the dualistic system is the thoughts and the emotions. So the way, for instance, people believe they're not self-realized is because there are thoughts which are being delivered into the mind, which are saying, "Oh, I'm not self-realized. You're not self-realized, are you, Nina?"
Some days I am, some days I'm not.
Well, the days when you are, you're in alignment with your infinite nature, and that's coming from the body of wisdom. The days when you think you're not is simply because you're listening to the mind and the emotions and believing them to be true, when really they've never been true and they never will be true. Yeah. It's just that you've tuned in. Like the dualistic realm is like a poor quality soap. It's a bit like Neighbours or Home and Away. So it's all about mental and emotional conflict, turmoil, disturbance, upheaval. But when we take delivery of the body mind, we're not told that we have this free subscription to the dualistic realm. So it's like having one of those soaps on in the background for the whole of your life, and you think it's yours. You think that the script of Neighbours is yours, and it's true. And that's what the mind is, really. It's like a script of limitation, which is inviting you to identify with it. And because you're the infinite being, if you consent to identification, you have the full-on experience as though that mind or those emotions are yours, but they never were. And once you know that...
How are they not? Is it just as simple as identification with them? Because it doesn't often feel like it's a choice at all. You talk about the consent and the choice and going on the ride or not, but it doesn't
Yes.
always feel
Well, it's
whole
because
like that.
no, well, it's because there are certain levels of consent which have been installed that we haven't even noticed we've consented to.
Okay.
So let's just go through the sequence. So we begin and remain as attributeless beings. So all we are in this moment, if we look in this moment, there is just attributeless being, which is just, it's like a cinema screen. So anything can be projected on that screen. So at the moment, there's the screen of a conversation. You know, it's like an image of a conversation going on between Nina and David. There are the objects in the room, the sounds, there are thoughts arising, emotional responses, perceptions, they're all arising in this moment. And so when we look at it from attributeless being, we can see that all that content is arising and we can just watch it. And we don't need to become attached to it. We don't need to believe it's true. We don't need to believe it's ours. It's like watching the ocean. It's just like, you know, awareness is like this infinite ocean within which these waves arise. So there can be the wave of a thought or the wave of an emotion or the wave of a perception.
Mm.
And once we see that, we can just observe them impersonally. And so there are several levels where there's consent that's gone on. And the consent, which it's a kind of tacit consent where we don't even realize we've consented. So because we've taken delivery of the body mind, and because everything in the world is telling you that you're existing as Nina, you really are this person called Nina. That's who you are. You know, you were born on a certain date, you have a family, it's all true. And you're kind of consenting to that when really it's just a storyline.
Yes.
But within that, so from that level of consent, consenting to the idea that you were born, that you are Nina, and that your life experience is true, then there are other things which come in on the back of that, which are things like doubts about self-realization, the feeling that something's missing, the feeling that you have to get somewhere. But all of that content is actually based on the consent to the idea that you really are this human being in time and space when you never were.
So, okay, so when you are self-realized, and
Which you already, yeah.
okay, you thank you. You might be a bit more self-realized than I am, because the dilemma I have then here, okay, you talk about the infinite being, the endless, or what word do you use? You use the word infinite. And when I listen to those words, and also by other teachers like Muji and others who talk about you were never born and you will never die, what the hell does that mean? like beyond our physical death? Is that what
No,
we're talking, or is it within this human body that we never switch off and switch on? Or
well,
is it that you somehow can actually remember and see the whole universe and beyond? I don't know what that means at all.
it's actually it's really simple, actually, which is that the only thing that is existing, the infinite being, is only ever existing in this moment. So there is no past, there is no future. That's all part of the script. That's like the previous episodes of Home and Away and the future episodes of Home and Away. All there ever is really, though, is this moment.
Okay.
The only thing that's existing in this moment is the infinite being. Now that infinite, so what you're knowing in this moment, in every moment, is it's the infinite being knowing itself. It's awareness aware of itself. And so that's
so
all
we can
you're
be aware of anything really right now. There's no
exactly.
there's no defined this. It's just anything.
Well, it's really, putting it simply, in Indian terms, they use the words Rishi, Devata, and Chandas, and they mean the knower, the means of knowing, and the known. So because what you are effectively is infinite awareness. Awareness is aware of itself. So when we just did the exercise where the eyes were closed, there was just effortless awareness of that sense of existence, awareness, presence.
Okay.
And so the knower is awareness. The means of knowing is awareness, and what is known is awareness. So that's in the simplest form. So that's in attribute is awareness. It's just awareness aware of itself. Now, it's always awareness aware of itself, but it can be in a disguised version. So most of what we experience is the disguised version. So if we let's take, say, Nina having a cup of tea. So awareness is disguised as Nina. So instead of it just being awareness that's aware, you've consented to the idea of the body mind. So you think it's Nina that's aware. And then the means of knowing is just awareness, but the disguised version is the sense of taste. And then what is known, instead of it just being awareness aware of itself, what is known is the tea. So the knower becomes Nina, or appears to be. I mean, it never actually happens because it's just awareness aware of itself, really. But the knower becomes disguised as awareness. The means of knowing is disguised as the sense of taste, and what is known is the tea. But it's just really awareness aware of itself. And that's all it ever is. So when Muji or anyone says you were never born, what he's saying really is that you never actually moved from your infinite nature, that it's always just awareness aware of itself. That's all you've ever been. But because you're so familiar with the human realm of experience, you're having the experience as though you are Nina having the cup of tea. You believe that to be true when actually it's just awareness aware of itself. So in that it was never born because it is just awareness aware of itself. That awareness is impersonal. So it never entered the personal realm of experience. It just remained as impersonal awareness. It's just that it's been so captivating because the whole personal realm, is captivating because that's where all the content is. All of the emotions, the mind, all of the virtual reality theme park ride is in the personal realm of experience. But you never became that.
So even the awareness is not personal. The
Exactly.
awareness in me, so your awareness, what you experience through your package, what you are, is the same as me, my equivalent. And if we just were able to break that barrier, we would be in the same consciousness. Is that right?
Exactly. There is
Like
only
breathing the
one
same
being.
air?
There is only one being and one awareness. We never move from that. We just remain as that. It's just
There's
that
nothing personal about what my awareness picks right now.
if you stop and you look, whenever you stop and you look, it's always impersonal awareness that is aware. Nina has never been aware of anything.
But
Everything
the
in this
sense of
world has
I,
told you.
the deep,
Pardon?
the big I, the big sense of I, is that
Yeah,
also
that's
nothing to do with who is habiting my body today?
the big sense of I is the I which belongs to the infinite being. That very tangible sense of I is the existence of the infinite being, which you know fully and you've always been, because all you can ever be is the infinite being. But even the idea, I mean, there's another level of consent you've just revealed there, which is the idea that you're inhabiting the body. Now, that isn't the case. You have the virtual reality experience as though you're inhabiting the body, but you've never inhabited the body because you're an infinite ocean of awareness within which all forms appear. So actually, all the forms, if you look at all the forms around you, so there's awareness of the light, there's awareness of the objects in the room, there's awareness of the sun in the sky, the stars, the moon. all the distant landscape, all of these forms are arising within the ocean of awareness that you remain as